portraying a shoreman in the cod fishing industry here in New England. Hello, how are you?
Well, yeah, we were curious. This is like dried cod?
Yes, exactly right. So this small display is indicative of the major salt cod industry in New England during the colonial times. So as you can tell, which of these things is not like the other. Right, so we have a real piece of salted cod here in the upper right. The rest is facsimile. So this piece of salted cod that's here has been air drying for a week now. So it's pretty dry, though it'll take about 3 weeks with perfect weather such as this for it to be fully desiccated, for it to lose all of its moisture, and historically speaking, be ready for shipment, for sale. So you have to reconstitute it, you have to soak it in water. Right, so it's going to take quite a while, and you need to refill the water as much as possible, because essentially you're just creating salt water around it if you just leave it in there. So you have to change out the water quite a bit over the course of a day until you're finally ready to start cooking. But this is a major industry in New England during the colonial period. Around 30% of exports in terms of value is coming from the exportation of salt cod. And there's two major industries for the salt cod, and that the number one market is in the West Indies on the sugar plantations. This is what's being used to feed the enslaved population on those islands. Every piece of arable land down there is being used for the cultivation of sugar. That's where the money is. So those islands have to import food for the vast amounts of slave populations that they have there. That's what's going to be called what they call refuse cod, which is the stuff that when you cure it isn't that good. The stuff that when you cure it and it's really well, it's marketable cod, that is going to be shipped to the European market. And that will be imported through Spain. So the merchants will pack the ship full of cod here, sail across the Atlantic, sell it in Spain, and that's when you're going to get wine, and you're going to get oranges and nuts and other fruits. And then also, that is where the colonists are getting their salt. There is no domestic salt manufacturing in the colonies during the American Revolution. All of it is coming through import. During the American Revolution in the late 1770s, they start experimenting with building their own salt works. One of the first is down on Cape Cod, because it's nice and airy, it's sunny. You're going to get, and obviously the salt water is right there, so you're going to have the area and the space and the conditions for a salt works, which is essentially air drying. Again, you are now evaporating all the water out of the salt water and leaving the salt.
So did they have like a big...
Oh, there would be acres and acres of this. And again, this is very small for display purposes and transportation, but you'd have tables that are about this high, almost looking like pallets, and they would be, again, grooved so that way the air can go over and above the fish, and there would just be acres of these things. And the job of the fisherman is obviously to catch and to salt the fish. Then there's the job of the shoreman, who is to finish the curing process once the fish is loaded. When the fish is loaded, the first thing you have to do is wash off the excess salt using fresh water. Because if you leave the salt on there, the chemical reaction with the sun, it's essentially going to burn the flesh. So you have to wash the excess salt off, and then starts an air drying process, which again will last around 3 to 4 weeks. So on the table we have some of the tools of the trade. We have obviously a hand line. All of the work is being done on board ship. They're not fishing with dories yet. They're fishing right off the side of the boat, and they're doing that with a hand line. And that would look something like that, just right off the side of the boat. Each fisherman would have 2 lines, one in each hand, and once he feels the fish pulling, then he would start to retrieve it and bring it up. Obviously, you're hauling these lines with your hands, so in order to stop rope burn, you would wear what's called nippers. So you would have these on your hands, and you'd be hauling up the line with the line right in the groove there to protect your hands when bringing up the fish.
James Warren's office. Mr. Warren is president of the Provincial Congress in Watertown, and he is in Newburyport today to take under bond myself and Mr. Dexter, who's over there in the blue talking to a tall sailor. to have our ships operate as privateers. And I am planning to engage several more of my ships as privateers, which will benefit the Congress.
I've shot these at the range. You can hit something at about accurately at about 75 yards. This is not at all. Or
Look at their
busted up.
every type of liquor possible out there. Chocolate, coconut, pineapple, things that we don't really think of that as, but it's right here. It's all.
We buy a 4-pound cannon in September of 1776. I fast forward to July 18th, 1776. There it is, handwritten in Congress, July 4th, 1776, a declaration. I'm like, it was very moving for me to see that written in my town. Today, Newburyport's going to read this for the first time, in 1776, to the town, and you're going to find out you are no longer a part of the British Empire. Wow, think about that. This is the official Declaration of Independence printed in Massachusetts. So we received a copy from Philadelphia. In Massachusetts, the Provincial Congress here in Massachusetts orders that it be printed and sent to all 351 parishes in Massachusetts. So Ezekiel Russell in Salem gets the job. So they send them to the towns, and this is what's different. So this is like the Dunlap out of Philadelphia. The one that comes out of Philly isn't handwritten, it's printed. We print it the night of July 4th, about 200 pieces, and send them out. So everybody gets a printed copy. We wanted to standardize, right? So a month later, we get the handwritten declaration. Nobody signs this one because they don't want their names out there just yet. John Hancock's name on here, he's president of Congress, and so he's already going to be hanged. Him and Samuel Adams. He doesn't care, right? But the rest of these guys, their name's not on here. Like, well, let's just hold off a minute before you put my name in the newspaper. Committing treason. Anyway, this little paragraph down here instructs the towns to read it at the first Sunday after they receive it from their parish, whatever it is, and then to give the copy to the town clerk to be written in the town meeting notes as a perpetual memorial thereof.
Oh, wow.
So we actually recreated this for the 250th anniversary. This is printed on handmade paper. We hand set the type, Caslon typeface, and this is really an exact reproduction of the original. And we sent it to all 351 towns this year, within the last month. So we've been seeing it in the news where people are reading it just right there today. It's a really amazing document. You know what I like about this, what really moves me about this one, is that this isn't the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party that's happening somewhere else. This is in our town.
Yeah, that's really
And it makes the revolution personal, and it brings it to us. I think that's just remarkable.
That was a beautiful presentation. Thank you. Hold on, Jerry. Hold on.
And you created this personally on this paper with this typeset?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And printed it on a wooden press.
Where is this happening?
The press is in Haverhill at the Museum of Printing.
Okay.
I had a shop in Boston for a long time. Michelle worked with us. Absolutely. So she's a typesetter and printer. In fact, she helped print about 100 of these.
Okay.
I found out this is a lot of work. I forgot how much work it was.
I bet.
Thank you for doing all that.
Yeah.
This one is all worn out.
This is your powder charge?
Powder charge, okay.
Yep.
Oh,
This is your water. So that way, once you swab the tube, make sure it's wet down there so you don't send, fresh powder into a hot tube. So once you swab it, you can then, with one shot, you can load it, have it wadded, and have your ammunition on board. So it's making a cartridge. Same as the muskets have their powder in their ball, all in one cartridge on their cartridge box. Same thing with the artillery rounds. So rather than having to ladle in a powder charge, then bring in the ball, all tied together as one. So those are all the different components of it.
I'm portraying an 18th century sailmaker, and I have my whole workbench here. And the workbench is really where you're doing most of your work. Now the sails, when you're cutting them out, they're going to be laid out on a floor in your sail loft, or on the deck of your ship if you're working on the ship. But the bench, it's a very long wooden bench. It has a place at the end to secure your sail-making hook, which is an extra hand for you that sticks into your canvas like so and pulls it tight and allows you to pull the seam nice and flat so you can work your threads through. Typically, sails lasted between 6 and 8 months in continuous use, so you were always needing new sails because your sail is your engine for a sailing vessel in the period. So sailmakers were always busy. But what I'm working with today, it's actually a hemp canvas, and this is a fairly lightweight canvas, but this is a boat sail, so it's not going to be extremely heavy. It's still fairly large. It's about 12 feet by 9 feet at the base, but it's a lightweight canvas. On a warship or a large merchant ship, the canvas would be much heavier. The sails are much bigger, and bigger sails, right? You need many men to pull on them, to work the ropes. That's why you see ships in the period with very large crew sizes. So you have a 300-foot long ship that's got 400, 500, 600 men on it. That's why, because they needed all those men to work the sails to maneuver the ship. So it's a very windy day. It's a good day for sailing. You can see it's blowing our hats all over the place. Same thing. With this huge sail, a lot of wind, takes a lot of manpower to move it around. So I'm wearing a sailmaker's palm, like you mentioned, and that's really because these needles, they're very large. They're very sharp at this end, not as sharp at this end. But if you tried to push this with your skin, it's going to hurt you. So you need this palm in order to grip it and push it through your fabric. Even this lightweight fabric, it's still fairly tough to push the needle through because it's very broad, and you're working it through this really tightly woven canvas. So if you're working with a heavier canvas, it's going to take a lot of force to push it through. Other tools, you have these are called fids, and they come in various sizes, and these are used for either working holes through your canvas to sew eyelets or grommets. They're also used in various aspects of rope work, for splicing, and they, like I said, they come in various sizes, and they can be wood, they can be metal. If they're metal, they're really good for punching through your canvas. You also have what's called a marlin spike. A marlin spike is kind of like a fid, but it's really more for the rope working. So you have a large piece of rope, you lift up the strands of rope, you can work other strands through. It's just another tool for that. You also have a knife. The knife is useful for cutting rope. And then I've got a little rack back here, and that holds all of my tools. And then this is what's called a seam rubber. So just a piece of dense hardwood, and because you're not using a pressing iron to press these seams flat, you fold it over with your hand, you press it with your fingers, and then you rub it like this, and the friction is what helps to set this folded edge, if that makes sense. And then I've got my little caddy down here where I've got my twine, my sailmaker's twine, and I've got a piece of cow horn that is full of beef tallow, and that's where I keep all of my needles, and the tallow keeps them from rusting. You're in a marine environment with salt air. It's going to make the needles rust very quickly, so you keep them in the tallow to keep them from rusting. And I just personalize mine with a little anchor and a motto on it. So I've got my shears here as well, and these are a bit overkill for cutting thread, but they're great for cutting heavy canvas. So, and these are not 18th century; these are 19th century. But the 18th century shears were basically the same as this. So, but these are antique. So, and then I have a toolbox obviously over here where I keep all of my tools. So those are all my things. It's a doubled seam. And this is the completed seam. So each piece of canvas is folded over, and that folded edge is stitched down, and then you flip it, and you do the same thing on the other side. Fold the other side over, stitch it down, and then once both of those lines of stitches are done, you go back with this running stitch up the middle, and that's called sticking. And this just helps keep it from, it helps prevent the stretching, the lengthwise stretching of the sail, and it also gives it a little bit more strength longitudinally as well. And this can be done, standard, you always do one. As the sail ages, it stretches out, it gets a little bit more worn. You can also go back and restitch these and do another line of sticking up the center just to extend the life of the sail. So you're always doing maintenance on them because they're in the wind, they're exposed to light, heat, cold, rain. Water is the enemy. It's gonna wear your sails out really quick. So you're always mending them, patching them. That's really more of what the sailmaker aboard a ship would be doing, is more of the mending and repairs and maintenance versus making an entirely new sail out of lengths of cloth. Now they could do that, obviously, if they had the supplies. They could do that, but shipboard, you're more doing the mending and repair.
I've actually never learned how to use a tattoo machine. Been tattooing for 12 years.